Africa. AIDA Africa is an organization where we run research clubs for African scholars especially. And these clubs are meant to really create a community for upcoming researchers. We also have mentorship programs, and we also have a lot of collaboration with other researchers. And part of the session we are having today with Dr. Barbara Burman is one of the sessions we usually call peer mentoring. And today we have her joining us because one of the needs that upcoming scholars have, not only in Africa, is employment opportunity. And we know employment is scarce, but even if it is scarce, there are usually opportunities out there that sometimes we may miss because of how we have packaged ourselves. So today is an opportunity for us to be able to improve our skills, that most job applications have this as a requirement. And so we would like her to sharpen our skill in this area so that we can be better at applying for the jobs that we get, and also we can share this skill with others. We believe in sharing. So welcome. Please, the rules of the session is just make sure that you're on mute if you're not speaking. We'll have Barbara go first, Dr. Barbara go first with the presentation, and then she will open it up for Q&A, or maybe she will also have Q&A in between. If you have any question, you could put it on the chat, although on the Q&A time, you could as well unmute yourself. We are just here for 1 hour, and then we'll see how time goes. So allow me to officially introduce Dr. Barbara. Davis, you'll scroll down a bit so that I can see. So there she is. She's a consultant writer, editor. She's a medical doctor. She's a researcher. She's an epidemiologist. Epidemiologist, yes. She's a public health specialist, and she's a mentor. Can you imagine all those hats? Dr. Burman, she holds a bachelor degree in human medicine and surgery and a master's degree in doctorate in public health. She undertook a postgraduate research fellowship at Harvard University and the University of Cape Town, and a policy fellowship at the Eunice Kennedy Shriver National Institute of Child Health and Development, a US-funded inter-academy partnership. Dr. Burman, she has over 19 years experience in HIV clinical programming, research science policy, and consulting fields with interest in operation research and professional mentoring. So we are in good hands. We're in the hands of a professional, well-experienced mentor. She has authored 30 publications, the Kenya AIDS Response Progress Report for 2018. She has made 25 international conference presentations and has received international recognition for innovations in clinical practice, policy, research, sustainable public health, interdisciplinary sciences, promoting the clinician-laboratory interface, influencing laboratory policy development, and mentoring. Wow, wow, wow. Dr. Burman, what else can we say except welcome? Please mentor us.
All right. Thank you so much, Aurelia, for the kind introduction and for inviting me to give this talk. And thank you so much for all of you who spared your time to come and listen to me speak today. I hoped to share my experiences that I have had when I started drafting cover letters right from the beginning of when I started working to date, and things that I have learned the hard way by making all the mistakes, and wish that I would at least maybe save somebody from making some of these mistakes. So this is sort of the outline of my presentation. I'll say generally the purpose of this talk, the format of cover letters, look through a sample advert, show some sample responses, give some tips from what I've learned over the years, and we I hope to have more time for Q&A so that we could be able to interact. So the purpose of this activity is we want you to be able to tailor the content of not only your cover letter, but your resume, your recommendation letters, interview responses when you're actually participating in an interview, and other applications for training courses, applications for scholarships, applications for master's programs, PhDs, and the like. The content that you actually put in your cover letter will sort of lay out the content for all the others. So this is the format that I use, sort of in 5 or 6 paragraphs, with the 5th and the 6th paragraph sort of being merged into one. The first paragraph is sort of where you had the advert from. I'll give a sample sentence for that. The second paragraph addresses the skills and the competencies for this job, and where usually it's written like educational experience and the like on the advert. Your third paragraph addresses your experiences and how you actually match the job experiences. Your fourth paragraph addresses the competencies, or may also be merged with the experiences. The 5th and the 6th paragraph address enclosures, that is if you're asked to enclose some particular documents. And your undertaking in the 6th paragraph, as well as maybe indicating availability, and depending on the type of application, they may be asking for a fee. So I just thought I should show how this looks. This is actually somebody's letter. So we have the sender's address, the recipient's address, salutations as per the advert. Sometimes you're asked to address to a specific person. If possible, try and find the proper salutation for the person. The reference of the job title, which is you're told you put the title of the job. Sometimes they ask you to put the vacancy number and other information, which you make sure you must have adhered to in this title. Where you saw the advert in this first paragraph, how your skills meet the job requirements. This next paragraph is how your experience it meets the job requirements. This addresses sort of competencies, an undertaking, and the sign off.
Excuse me, Daktari, we cannot see the letter yet.
Yeah. Cannot see the letter?
Not yet, we cannot see it yet.
All right. All right, I'll just come back to it at the end.
Okay.
Yeah, because I could be able to share it. So we'll go through each of these paragraphs. So maybe should be very. So there's an advert. Chances are it might refuse to share, but I have extracts from the advert. So this is the first paragraph, which you will place under the reference statement in response to a call for applications placed on, this might be, Daily Nation dated this date, might be the website of this organization, might be wherever you got the information. Maybe for internal applicants, you can say it was shared on the organization's intranet. So I wish to be considered for the above post, which you've clearly indicated in the introductory, in the reference statement. You could or you could not add this sentence if you wish. I believe my education and experience have appropriately prepared me for this post. This is your paragraph 1 of your cover letter. You may delete the second sentence where you have more information and content in the next paragraphs because it's sort of a bit of repetitive. So from the advert, this is a job for a study assistant. These were the essential requirements. O-level certificate, grade C minus or equivalent, and experience working in a health facility, proficiency in spoken and written English. On a separate section, there's also proficiency, you should be able to speak Luo. So this is the response. 27-year-old male, proficient in both oral and written English, Swahili, and the Luo languages. So I attained a mean grade of this in the KCSE from this high school in this particular year. So that clearly addresses the first bullet and the third bullet. The next, I have over 2 years experience in conducting interviews and collecting data in health facilities and at the community level. So this person has shown that they've been able to work at a health facility. So within the same job, this was some of the requirements: attention to detail, a good work ethic, be able to review medical charts for specific information, must be courteous, proactive, hardworking, and have excellent interpersonal skills, must be able to engage and interview patients, must have good organizational skills, must be able to coordinate follow-up appointments, must be flexible and able to adapt to the conditions of the field, and ability to speak Luo. The specific tasks for this job were to be able to interview patients, ascertain eligibility to participate in the study, assign study ID numbers to participants and maintain complete and accurate record of patient names and ID numbers, interact with nurses and help coordinate follow-up appointments, coordinate collection of lab specimens, including labeling of specimen containers, keeping track of those who need to provide additional lab specimens, coordinate patient appointments and assist with patient tracking to ensure regular follow-up, ensure confidentiality of patients' medical and demographic information at all times, reimburse patient costs for scheduled visits and keep proper records of the same, attend all required study meetings on time and provide regular updates. So before we move into the next slide where I'm going to show you how we address this, as you draft your cover letter, you have to think how your experiences, your training, on things about you, including voluntary work, that meets each of the requirements and put it in your own words in the letter. So I've extracted some of the bullets from the past two slides under skills and desirable qualities. They're not usually in the order that you want to write them, so I put them in bits. So this person talks about, in my previous placements, my duties have included screening and recruitment of eligible participants, tracking and retention of participants, coordination of specimen collection and tracking, basic interpretation of results, tracking and recording participants' vital data, ensuring forms are accurately completed by clinicians, preparing weekly and monthly reports for the coordinator, being a custodian of the study supplies, receipt and documentation of all communications regarding the study, attending facility, team meetings, and study meetings on time, and resolving all discrepancies in collected data with the immediate supervisors. So this is somebody who has shown they can coordinate follow-up appointments that is mentioned. They have good organization skills. This will be supported also by the information in the CV where they show where they've worked, as well as information from a referee or a recommendation letter from the previous job. Having worked in a facility, this person has shown they're able to engage and interview participants. So on the next slide, we talk about, I'll just go straight to, this talks about the personal details, attention to detail and good work ethic, courteous, proactive, hardworking, and have excellent interpersonal skills, must be able to engage and interview patients, must be flexible and willing to adapt to conditions of the field. So based on the information in the previous slide, this was the next sentence. All this, referring to the tasks, require the ability to multitask, attention to detail, communication, teamwork, interpersonal skills, and ensuring the confidentiality of participants. This is because this person doesn't just sit in one place and do specific duties. They have to recruit participants, ensure samples are well collected. They have to work within a health facility, so they have to have good interpersonal skills, and they have to be very confidential in managing patient information. So this is the whole paragraph. I highlighted the text that was required on the skills and experiences, screening and recruitment, tracking and retention, coordination of specimen collection, ensuring forms are accurately completed, attending facility meetings. So on this second advert, I just picked a bit of excerpts. So for this, there were qualifications that were required, master's degree in public health, social science, training in epidemiology, public health, or related discipline. So this is the response, a holder of a doctorate degree in public health and community development, master's degree in public health, with options in advanced epidemiology, and bachelor's degree in human medicine and surgery. So you could clearly see this sentence has covered the first bullet, is a master's degree in public health, and this training in epidemiology and public health. So this same advert was talking about language requirements. They need an expert knowledge of English, desirable basic knowledge of French or another UN language. So the response, fluent in spoken and written English. So it would be useful if you could take an English language proficiency test. I've put a link to a free test at the end of this presentation, which you could use to support your fluency in a particular language when you're applying for these jobs, and have a basic knowledge of French. So the knowledge of French is desirable, in the advert. So if you cannot speak French, you could still apply for the job. So experience required, essential, 5 to 7 years working in academic writing, editing, or publishing, and epidemiological or public health topics. A track record of publications of articles in academic journals. This is the response. 30 publications. I have 30 publications and I've made 25 presentations, international conferences. I have over 10 years experience in scientific writing, initially as, and you put the roles what you are working as, because it's rare that you are called a writer. So you may have written when you are working as a medical doctor, when you're writing as a researcher, as a study coordinator, and you mentioned you were a study coordinator when I was working with this organization. So under skills, we had advanced knowledge of MS Office. The response, I'm conversant with the use of MS Office applications and statistical analysis software to analyze qualitative and quantitative data. Under skills also, under competencies, I intended to address this together for both jobs because you more or less look at the same things. These are two useful links to information that can help you understand how to write your competencies, both in the cover letter, in the job application, and in answering competency-based questions during interviews. So I have extracts from these documents, which I hope to be able to share and show how you could address some of them. So under communication, you could see, say, speaks fluently, expresses opinions, information and key points of an argument clearly, presents information with skill and confidence, responds quickly to the needs of an audience and to their reactions and feedback, projects credibility, structures information to meet the needs and understanding of intended audience, presents information in a structured and logical way. I need to mention that you don't need to meet all of them, but this is to help you and get you thinking. This is sort of the summary section in the document, one of those documents. The document is about 27 pages. So if you go to the other pages where there's communication, there's more detail on how you could meet each of these. This is a separate document, which section 65 talks about written communications. And these are some of the questions that could be addressed. So the requirements that you're able to write clearly and succinctly in a variety of communication settings and styles. And you can get messages across that have the desired effect. So the sample questions are, tell me about a time when you used your written communication skills to convey an important message. Give me an example of an important report that you've written. So these are examples that I have used, that I was contracted to by UNAIDS, and I compiled the Kenya AIDS Response Progress Report of 2018. That's an important report that I have written. And here I've talked about my fluency in English. This was a specific summary that the job wanted somebody to write sort of in a bullet form. So I wrote that I'm conversant in quantitative and qualitative data analysis, the number of publications I have, and conference presentations. The innovation. So you're good at bringing creative ideas of others to the market. You have good judgment about which creative ideas and suggestions will work. Have a sense about managing the creative process of others. You can facilitate brainstorming. You can project how potential ideas may play out in the marketplace. So what promoted an innovative and an innovative climate? Tell me about a time when you took a good idea from A to Z. So these were two different statements from two different applications. So I just talked about my innovations of AdB, numerous international awards. This one had a word limit, so actually a character limit. So I did not list the awards. And this other one, I had mentioned that in a climate of decreasing funds, I was able to identify funded opportunities for people to participate in using routinely available resources. So people were able to get over 30 travel grants to different meetings at courses and programs and different conferences without the organization spending additional funding. So relating and networking, you can establish good relationships with external partners and staff. builds wide and effective networks within UNICEF, within the wider UN system, and with external parties, relates well to people at all levels, manages conflict, uses humor appropriately to enhance relationship with others. So networking and partnerships, I've worked with policymakers, non-government organizations, and international partners. Also working in international context. I need to point that international context doesn't necessarily mean that you have left the country. You may have worked with international organizations within the country or partners from international organizations, and that it actually counts. I wish to mention something about humor. I think if you refer to the documents, there will be a section where they ask you about humor, and some applications actually ask you to mention examples of how you have used humor. So a drive for results, sets high standards for quality work, monitors and maintains quality of work, works in a systematic, methodological, and orderly way, consistently achieves project goals, focuses on the needs and satisfaction of internal and external partners, accepts and tackles demanding goals with enthusiasm. The response here is I have led teams to successfully implement research projects from concept development to funding application to results presentation by use of different tracking tools. So this is the link to the free online language test. I encourage you to take it and you can add it to your resume. This is one of my, should I say, favorite ways of ending my letters. I've enclosed my resume and testimonials, if necessary, and names of 2 referees who I'm confident can vouch for my competence in the above post. Kindly consider my request. You could use it if you wish. You could adapt it to what you want. I just thought I should share it as the end of the letter. So from here, I'll talk about a few other tips, and then I would wish to hear from you to share any questions, experiences, and what you maybe feel you need was of interest to you, what was not of interest. Maybe I also need to know what I may have addressed further. So talking about adherence to requirements, sometimes they talk about the word count, they talk about the font size, they talk about the number of pages. If possible, for job applications, try to have everything on one page. For academic applications, sometimes they go much longer because of what you need to write. If there are any enclosures required, certificates, reference letters, please make sure you address all of them. Advertisements have other text, like the intro part. Sometimes there's an extra information down there at the end, who you should write to, when you should, the deadlines. So some of the text in the advert, like the first advert I intended to share, within this, the paragraph that's listing the specific jobs you're supposed to do, there are actually some requirements that are mentioned in the other text in the advert. So it's important to go through that text and see what is of interest. It may also help you in the application. I thought I should mention about addressing ongoing education. I know many people are midway. I have also been midway between many things, midway between a master's and a bachelor's, midway between a master's and a PhD. And sometimes it's a plus, where you may want to apply for jobs for maybe people who are qualified at PhD level, where you have the experiences that meet the job, but you've not quite completed your PhD. Or even your master's, that would be useful to put it in the application letter. Sometimes it's detrimental to you because maybe no one wants to employ you at the level you have not reached, maybe your master's level. And no one wants to employ you at your bachelor's level also because they say this person will leave as soon as they finish studying. So you ought to decide when or not to include your ongoing education in job applications. I think you could use your discretion to decide on that. When you look at the other text in the advert, or even within the skills, sometimes they need you to have done some specific courses, some specific knowledge. There are several short courses available online for free, which you could take and add them to your application. Those short courses take a few hours, and sometimes you have a few days to apply for the job. And the beauty is that you can always have that certificate on your job. Indicate your availability based on the plans, if required, based on the agreements you have with your current placement. So how do you identify jobs you qualify for? I have mentioned you don't need to meet all the criteria. I think you can look through and decide, do I meet 3 or 4 of the 5 requirements and how do I plan to address the remaining one or two? You could address them using your transferable skills. You say, I have not done this, but based on this skill that I have at this place, I believe I could do this. Try and keep track of your different job applications. Writing a proper cover letter, doing a proper CV formatting takes me also a lot of time. So it's good to keep that letter and that application, and you call it that job you applied for. This is a CV for M&E, this is a CV for research, this is a CV for an academic CV. This particular application, you can find a way to track them. If you want to track them by organization, if you want to track them by the theme of the job, that would be your choice. How do you quantify your experiences? We would address this further if we have another talk, but in brief, I like giving an example of two people. One person who says, I have been a study coordinator for 3 years. Well, the other one says, I have been a study coordinator for 3 years. I have worked in 15 health facilities. We recruited over 1,000 participants. I was supervising 23 staff. And say, who would the employer be interested in picking? So each time you think of your experience, think of how to quantify it and think of what was unique and what you achieved about that specific job. I read this somewhere and I've said there's a disclaimer that it is not true, that you need about 10 applications to get to one interview and you need 10 interviews to get to one job. I just need you to see the scale of how much effort you need to put into. And the effort includes, sitting down and thinking through each specific bullet, each specific thing on the advert. You go through the advert like you're reading for an exam and go through and think of each specific bullet. How do I meet it? And it's good to keep the advert. If you need to refer to it later, sometimes it's not available online anymore. So if possible, you can save it on a Word document or something, and later when you plan to delete them, you can get rid of them. It would be useful to have that advert when you finally go for the job interview. So these are the sites for some free online courses. They're very good ones on UNICEF Agora, WHO, Author Aid, which is on and off, and there are a few others which maybe I'm sure you share within the group. So at the end, I would wish to acknowledge my high school English teacher of several years ago, Mr. Chege Kamau, who first taught me how to write an official letter. I can say that I still use some of the texts he taught me when I was in high school. And my late father, Mr. Burman, who spoke the Queen's English, who also took up helping me to draft cover letters after high school. And the ICF study team, who are the first team I supervised in research, who gave me a chance to have a lot of experience in listening and drafting cover letters, and they had the patience to wait for me to ask them so many questions, because should somebody help you in writing a CV or writing a cover letter, I believe that the only way to get the letter properly customized to you is by sitting with you or knowing you very well, so that they can make the letter suit you and not just a specific template that sounds so generic. I also want to thank my mentees, there are several of them, and my mentors who have helped me throughout my career, as well as Ada for inviting me for this talk. Thank you so much, and back to you, Aurelia.
Wow, thank you very much, Dr. Barbara, for that very concise presentation. And we have good time for questions, because we like not only to hear from the presenter, but also to hear from the participants. What has been your experience? What are some of the mistakes you have made? What are some of the things you will now adapt? I think now we are ready to hear from you. So you could either unmute yourself and ask a question or make a comment, or you could put something on the chat. Let us hear your experience. How has your cover letter journey been? How many have you done this month? And what's that journey like? Don't let Dr. Barbara go without addressing your concerns today. Yes, Martin is saying thank you very much. for the wonderful presentation. Naila is saying, is it possible to get a copy? Yes, Naila, you can get it. You're in the Journal Club, so we will post it there. For those not in the Journal Club, how can they get the presentation, Daktari? Because of the links?
I think if they share their emails, maybe you could share it with them.
Yes, please. Please share your email. Please share your email. You could just click on, you don't have to share with everyone. On chat, you have an option. Just click on Aurelia, and then we can have your email. You can, yes. So Lawrence is saying this came at the right time. Thank you, Itzai. So Dr. Ari, one question from me. What is the one common mistake that you made or that people actually make when they're writing cover letters that you could tell us, the one that comes top mistake?
I think one is using the same cover letter for all applications.
Guilty.
Yes, not sitting and thinking through the advert when you write the application. I mentioned that these are mistakes I've made myself. So I have, sent applications based on former cover letters. Sometimes, in the effort to customize that application and write it so well, in the middle, in the text of the letter, there's the name of the organization. And then when you just copy and paste and send it to the next job, just assume this job is at Cambridge, and the other job you applied for maybe was at UCSF. You've written how you could the details of UCSF in the application, and you're sending this job to Cambridge, and inside the text somebody sees UCSF. I think the person will notice that you don't pay attention to detail, and sometimes that may be somewhat offensive to the person who is looking through the applications. One thing is also meeting the requirements. I think I've sat through a short listing, and I've seen how the first long list is made, and it's not really nice because you see applications being discarded for just not meeting a requirement. You did not attach a certificate, it's discarded. You did not attach the number of recommendation letters, they're discarded. So those are the main things I have seen.
Wow, thank you. I think I'm guilty of using the same cover letter for many, many things and just updating the intro. So thank you for that. And I think one thing we've also gotten from you is read every sentence, and you have to show evidence of that. I think we just gloss over the main job title and then we start. So that's a really big tip. Martin, please unmute yourself and ask the question. I can see your hand is up.
Yes, sorry. Yeah, I'm Martin Mutuku. Thank you, Dr. Burman, for the nice presentation. So mine is not a question. Mine is an experience. And well, I used to work with Dr. Barbara, as she was my senior. And towards the end of last year, well, she had left the organization that we were working in Cambridge. And we managed to sit with her, and she reviewed my CV and a cover letter. Now I never got that job, but I used the same format to apply for the current job that I'm in. So one of the things I learned is that that was just after 3 months of my job that I was working was ended because of funding issues. So one thing is that I learned that it's good that you share your cover letter, your CV with a mentor, so that sometimes they point to things that you think you know and you don't know. Even while I'm still working, as if it's not that I'm looking for a job opportunity, but still these skills, you continually going to use them. So still it's good to have your documents looked at by somebody if you are serious about a certain application. Just for example, like one of the slides that she had on the screen, like for the UN, for the UNICEF, they have specific format, and sometimes it can be very mind-boggling. But when you get these people who have such experience in international presentation and such stuff, they give you that kind of experience. And trust me, things with time become better. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for the comment, Martin. Barbara, you can see your work is coming here for you. Martin was your mentee. You'd like to make any comment on what he has said?
No, Dr. Thank you so much, Martin.
Thank you, Martin, for that. And what I also realized from Dr. Barbara's responses to the different questions, you're very short and precise, you know, very short and clear in responding. And I think that's a very good skill in terms of application, especially where there are word limits. So the chat is on fire, literally. Before now we go to the chat question, Redemptor, your hand is up. You ask, then now we can go to the chat questions. There are quite a number there.
Thank you very much, Aurelia, for giving me an opportunity to ask a question. And thank you, Dr. Barbara, for a fantastic presentation. Actually, to share my experience, I've been a victim of all the not to do's that you've talked about. For example, I use the standard application for most of the jobs because I find it so tedious to customize each application, and you rarely get an invite for an interview. So I've made so many applications for over a year. I think only landed 3 or 4 interviews. So it's a bit discouraging. So these days I put everything I've done, all the experiences, everything in one cover letter. The HR can sort out what they're looking for. Another thing I wanted to ask is whether you need to do a one-pager application. I read somewhere that it should be a one-pager, although I'm not quite sure with the 6 paragraph that you talked about. So that's my question. And then I'll also ask if you have some time to maybe mentor, look at some of our CVs like you did for, is it Michael? Your former colleague. If you have some time, you could probably help in looking at it and seeing whether we're on the right track. And then also my other question is it necessary to, in your cover letter, to mention the universities you've been in? Like if you say you have a doctorate or you have a master's or a PhD or a bachelor's, do you need to state the university or you don't have to? Also, do you need to say the jobs you've done, like the previous jobs you've done and the organizations you've been in? Are those also necessary in your CV? Thank you.
Thank you, Redemptor, for your questions. I maybe will start with about mentioning your universities and your specific jobs you worked for. You may or may not mention your universities because the information is also in your CV. What is important is to mention the qualification. If I make reference to the sort of the bio that Aurelia shared at the beginning, I just mentioned the qualifications that I have. I did not put in the years and I did not put in the universities. So in the interest of space, meeting the requirement just needs you to show that you have a particular qualification. You don't need to say where you got the qualification, and that can be seen in the resume, in the CV, because you will write the name of the university in the CV, the name, the country, and all that. The same with the jobs you worked for before. Let's assume I'm looking for a job as a medical doctor right now. It would only be prudent for me to mention the jobs where I worked as a medical doctor, and if need be, the names of the institutions where I worked as a medical doctor. I have worked in other places, not as a medical doctor, as a researcher. I've worked as an editor, writer. So those are not necessary for the cover letter and may or may not be necessary for the CV, although we are not addressing that today. So that's sort of why you think of customizing. In the first draft, you can write everything longhand, and later you can trim it down to reduce the text to 1 page. That sort of moves me into the next question about the 1 pager. The 6 paragraphs sort of are a guide. So usually, you know, the first paragraph, if you could see the screen, could just be 1 line, as you could see this one. And the next 2 paragraphs, educations and experience, usually takes the bulk of the letter. Usually, sometimes there are no enclosures. And when you talk about your experiences, you can merge them with the competencies if need be. But remember, each thing you're writing is tailoring the application to the advert. So if you may find this easier, you may actually copy the information from the advert word for word into a Word document and maybe save them in a different font or something or different color. And under each bullet, you type out sentences to show how you meet each criteria. And then now use that maybe in another second or third version to merge it and draft out your letter. So trying to get it to one page will be based on your final content. Based on writing, what I've learned is never try to write a final copy in the first draft. Like the letter I'm showing on the screen was not written in the first draft. It was written after a number of drafts of sitting through and trimming this, trimming that. So you write the long one, put in as much as you want, and then later you start realizing I don't really need this. You start trimming it out. To look at CVs, I will try. I will try my best if a few of you want me to look at it. I have a disclaimer. One is I'll make you redo it. I'll ask you a lot of questions, and I realize people do not like that. So unfortunately, I tell everybody that up front these days. I can try to look at a few, but I'm hoping based on the information that I've shared, looking at them will be easier now. Thank you. I hope I've answered your questions, Redemptor.
Thank you very much, Dr. Barbara. Let's now move to the chat. Aaron will come to you. Let's move to the chat first and check what's happening there. One question I would ask as we go to the chat, Dr. Barbara, how do you deal with application fatigue, where you are constantly applying for jobs and it takes quite a lot of time? How do you deal with that fatigue? But let me ask a few more, then you can answer that. Okay, so the questions are, yes, let's go. Thank you for sending your emails. Then we have, thank you, Dr. Barbara, for the insightful presentation. And yes, a toast for Chege, yes. How does one address the issue of huge gap of unemployment in the CV? For instance, 3 years. Okay, today we're not dealing with the CV, Belinda, but she can answer that, I think. How does one join the journalism club? Well, it's not a journalism club, it's a journal club or a research club. I think Davis will put the information there. Davis, you can put some information for those who want to join the club. It's a club of researchers where we support each other. Then Jonathan is asking, is there a specific difference between an application letter and a cover letter? Yes. Then final question, then you can take them, Daktari. I appreciate the very informative and enlightening presentation. I would wish to know whether interest and hobbies are significant in the CV. So you could take those up, then we take a couple more.
Yeah, thank you so much for your questions. I'll start with the first question, which is a bit hard, how you address application fatigue. I think one thing I've realized is if you take time to, write each letter, sit down, think through, draft it, write it, and, if maybe somebody is helping you, like Martin mentioned, have somebody talk to you through some of these things to get a different perspective of some of the skills and experiences you have. One thing is you get better with time. And the thing is, the more you write them, the higher your chances of getting shortlisted to an interview. I can almost guarantee, I'm not going to say 100%, that when you draft your cover letter this well for a job that you actually qualify for, you're actually going to get invited to the interview. And this I have seen from my own personal experiences. I've also seen from actually helping people draft their applications. And when you keep track of them and you look at them, not only can you help yourself, you can also help other people. And I guess I motivated to get something. And once you get one thing, you get motivated to get another one. So when you are fatigued, you take a break, but you have to keep applying. You set your own target. If you want to apply for 2 or 3 a week, if you want to apply for 1 a week, some of these things require a lot of effort. Like if you're applying for some specific fellowships, they need a number of recommendation letters. You have to track the referees. you have to change your CVs. They want so many other things. Some even require the referee to actually upload the documents themselves, which you have to coordinate. So your motivation should be, what is your end result? What do you really want? And just landing in the job sometimes is not satisfactory. You also want to move to another job. So you just have to, you know, keep track, be motivated, maybe share with a group of friends, keep yourself accountable, and you will get to that point, and God willing, you'll also have a chance to help other people get to their jobs. Gaps in the CV. We're looking at gaps in months. Gaps in months you can address by removing months from your CV and just have years. So you would say, I worked, you know, in this place in 2010, this place in 2011, and this place in 2012, but maybe in 2010 and 2011, 6 months from each year, you are not at work. Longer gaps, I don't believe somebody did absolutely nothing. Let me start maybe with somebody who had to take a gap to maybe take care of a family member, maybe take care of, maybe somebody had a baby. You can write in their family caregiver. I think I read that someplace, and you can address that when you attend the interview. And sometimes these gaps are not your fault. Things happen and funding runs out. So try and find a way of getting yourself engaged during the gap years. Even volunteer experience counts. So I'm presuming if you are engaged in a particular employment for 3 years, at some point maybe you're engaged in something else. Even working in, some people discount jobs that they did after high school. I think I've seen that in several CVs, several people I've spoken to. People worked maybe it's making stuff, other people worked in US, other people worked in Juakali. Those can go to your CV because you acquired some skill there when you worked in each of those places. So document as much as you can. And if you can't find any document, you can leave the gap and explain it when you're at the interview. Not everybody is biased by the CV. About interests and hobbies, we know we will come to the CV later. My personal opinion is I don't include them. I think once I read somewhere that your boss is not really interested in whether you like baking. You like baking, so. But that I think is open to discussion. Sure about how to go about that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's go back again. There is a question on Dr. This is from Lolencia. Please, I wish to find out if putting a qualification in your cover letter higher than the qualifications required by the job wouldn't count as being overqualified. For example, the job needs a BSc and you showcase a master's or a PhD. Then there is still a question here. Would you still advise someone to apply for a job when they qualify for all skills advertised, except the fact that they are not proficient in a desired language, like French, German, or Turkana? One last one before you answer. How long should a CV be? Just a generic one that you need to send to organization and not in response to a specific job. That's from Naila. Are there generic CVs, Daktari? Should one capture the grades obtained in the CV? So you could answer that. Then we'll have 3 more.
Okay, thank you so much for your questions. I'm happy that you're engaging with the questions. So the issue of higher qualifications, I think you can look at it in 2 ways. Having had been in a position where I was doing a master's that took about 3 years, and I was applying for jobs saying I'm a master's student, and I was hoping to be able to make that leap. I know my colleagues may have made the leap to work in public health jobs, not necessarily without doing their master's. And should I say that was my motivation? I wanted to get there also. I found it challenging because people really felt you are not really qualified yet. And unfortunately, maybe I didn't have the public health experience at that time. So I could not be employed for my qualification and I could not be employed for my experience. My experience was more clinical at that time. But looking, turning it around the other way, applying for jobs as a medical doctor, nobody wanted to employ me because they said this person is studying, and as soon as this master's is over, she's going to leave. And I mean, maybe they're still suffering from the doctors who left recently, and that's why they're hiring. So you would choose to include higher qualifications or exclude higher qualifications based on the requirement of the job. I know people who have not included their higher qualifications because they knew automatically, based on this particular organization, you would not be shortlisted. The moment you say, I've moved to this, I have this qualification, I have a diploma, I have a degree, you would not be shortlisted because they would say, we do not want this person is overqualified for this job. But you need to think through why you're doing this, because you might say that I just have high school leaver, and then in your CV you say you've worked somewhere at a position that they would not employ a high school leaver. So somebody would know and say, I know this person worked at this place, or at this place I don't think they would employ a high school leaver at this level. So you have to sort of use your discretion to decide when to include. If including it, I know one of the slides I showed mentioned they had a doctorate. I mentioned it because I wanted to put in the epidemiology part. And if mentioning it is going to be detrimental to you, do not mention it. But think through what is in the CV, think through what your referees have written. If God willing, later we may go through each of these documents. If your referee is saying, that he knows you hold a bachelor's degree in this, and I know some people use the same referee letters for these jobs because it's more or less the referee letter you're given at your previous job. So you are attaching that to the letter, and in your CV you said, I don't have a degree. So, there's already inconsistencies in what you've written. Language requirements. The challenge with language requirements is where you're expected to work. There are some jobs, let's say even within research, if you're not on the frontline level, interacting with participants, you may not need to speak a particular language. That would be for people who are interacting with the participants. So at some particular level, maybe they don't really need somebody to speak English or speak French or speak Spanish. But if you have to go and work in a specific country where they all speak French, like these Francophone African countries, in the office they speak French. Their documents are written in French. So that you would not be able to be shortlisted because they would say, if you can't speak French, you can't work here. It's unfortunate, but you would meet all the requirements except the language requirements. How long should a CV be? I think you talked about generic. I think let's move away from the term generic because we don't want to have one CV for all your jobs. There are two sort of formats of the CV that I know about. One is the academic CV, which is very, 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 very long. That lists all your publications, lists all the students you supervised, lists the names of their projects, lists all the courses you've taught, all the conferences you've gone to, and anything else you can think of, any patents you have, any awards. This can go to 20, 30, 40 pages or something. And then we have the short resume for jobs. What I read someplace was that one is supposed to be 10 years per page. So if you've worked for 10 years, 1 page, 20 years, 2 pages. I know that is extremely, extremely short. But one key thing I learned from that one was they were saying you need about, I think 40 bullets for all your jobs. So, you split them, the first 3 or 4 jobs, 8 bullets, then they go down to 4 bullets, then 2 bullets. And that way, if you have to think through what exactly you need to write, you weed out all the information. I want to give an example of, let's say I've worked as a clinician till now, and I've been in 4 different jobs. It's not very useful to say, my job was outpatient and inpatient patient management in job 1, in job 2, in job 3, in job 4. And this is 10 years have gone by. What is it I did that was different in outpatient management in job 1? What I did in job 2 that was different? What I did in job 3 that was different, and job 4? And then is it necessary to repeat it in each of those jobs? And each of those bullets should be quantifiable achievements, but I think we're not really addressing this. The grades in your CV, capture them if required. If not required, I think most employers are interested in the skills that you have, which you use, which you got when you are training. Not necessarily if you want to write you got a first class, please do. Don't feel that you have to hide your achievements, but it's not really necessary. Nobody, unless they specifically want you to write it, it's not necessary.
Thank you, Barbara. Yes, so let's wind down the questions now. We have Redenta asking, is it necessary to include your age in the cover letter? Then should you mention high school grades when you have a master's degree? I think that's what you mentioned a bit. Thank you, Doctor, for the insightful presentation. How does one quote a salary? Okay, then we have the details for those who want to join the journal club. It's a group of researchers. We are almost going to 500 now, just supporting each other. It's free, we don't charge. I don't think knowledge should be charged. I think we should be in a space where we are sharing openly, especially African scholars, to really uplift each other. Then final question, kindly advise whether it's necessary to have a passport size photo on a CV. Then Aaron, you had your hand up. After Dr. Barbara answers those, you can ask your question, and I think we could end with you.
Thank you for the questions. One, addressing age. This specific advert, I think, wanted, it's not necessary to include your age, but this specific one on the screen was, I think they asked for age. I don't remember it very well because I couldn't find the specific advert. And high school grades, no, but I think if we go back to the slides, this specific advert wanted somebody who had at least a C-. So you have to mention your grade if the specific job requirement asked for it. Quoting a salary, somebody once told me in the past, it's your annual gross in US dollars, and I think you include the exchange rate. But generally, I think most people don't ask for, if they do, that is the way you should write it. I think your annual salary in US dollars, and you say the exchange rate that you used. Passport size photo, that's sort of a new thing we see these days. I know there's so many CV formats outside there. There's so many ways of doing things. That wasn't really a requirement years back. So personally, I've never included any photo in my applications. And I think I'm usually very happy and surprised when I go for the interview and people are expecting a totally different person. They don't expect an African, they don't expect a lady, totally different things that they expect. So I have never used a photo, and I would not be able to, I'm not in a position to tell you whether it makes it better or worse.
Thank you for that. Actually, I didn't know you should put your annual gross salary, not monthly salary, in your quotation. That's true, right? You said annual gross, right?
Yeah, that's annual gross.
Yes, yes. Thank you for that. Aaron, is it Aaron who had his hand up? It's now down, but I don't know, does he want to say something? Hi, Jonathan. I can see you from the Other Age Journal Club. Nice to see you. Aaron, are you here? Aaron Anok, do you want to ask anything?
Yes, I have a question to the doctor.
Yes, go ahead.
First of all, let me take this opportunity to thank the doctor for sharing with us the knowledge she has over the cover letter writing. The question that I have is this. There is this online application. Hello?
We can hear you. We can hear you, Aaron. Just go ahead. I think we've lost you. You've lost you. We've lost you, Aaron. Maybe you could put it on chat if you're having a network issue. We've lost you there.
Already,
or you can, yeah?
I could attempt to answer his question. I can allude to what I think he's mentioning.
Okay.
Yes, then maybe if you're able to get back, you can say if we answered the question. Online applications where you have to put things online. What you need to do is, first, I know there's some which are sort of closed. you have to put in your email and register and all that. After you do that, I know there are pages which can't move to the next page unless you put in some information. So just put in some, any text, even just typing any letters, and move through each page. But as you move through each page, please save the screen in whatever way you want. You want to save it as a print screen and put it in Word, you want to save it as PDF. After you do that, you put in some information. So following that, you download and save all the documents. Please, when you get to the last page, don't submit because you have not written the application. So now you have the application form offline, which is asking all the questions with the word counts and everything. So you go through and some have essays and the like. You can type in the information on a Word document and prepare everything as you would if you had an offline application. If it's an online application where the CV is online, the PD is online, the advert, download the advert. Aurelia, back to you.
Okay, looks like our time up. Redemptor, did you have a question? Because we are done.
Yes, I have one last question. Thank you, Aurelia. Dr. Barbara, I would like to ask whether you have any specific insights on applying for UN jobs or any international fellowships. My experience with those is that most of them are online and they are time consuming, they're very tedious because they'll ask you for your qualifications even right from primary school, high school, the schools you went to, your grades, universities, where you worked. It's so long and tedious. You spend hours online, and sometimes if you don't have very good internet and keep timing out, you can do it over and over again. If you're a last minute person, you could be doing it till the wee hours of the night, if it's a day to the deadline. And unfortunately, you rarely get any response after all that hassle, So it kind of becomes a painful process and you wonder how people get them. Is there anything specific you should do to get to land those UN jobs and international fellowships?
Thanks, Redemptor, for your question. I think one thing I like sharing with my mentees and friends is that I have a huge file which I call unsuccessful applications. I know, sometimes you see somebody, mentioning I've gone to 25 international conferences. I'm not mentioning the number that I applied to and I didn't go to. I'm not mentioning the rejected applications. How many times I have sent a paper to a journal and it was rejected. 4 or 5 times looking for a specific journal to accept my paper. So it's unfortunate, but you have to put in the effort, meet all the requirements. The academic CV I had, I would find out if it's be able to share it belong to a particular group. But actually drafting that academic CV, which I did sometime last year, took me a few days because I started thinking, many years when I was in medical school, I went to this place and I don't even remember the name of the place. So I had to start writing down things from, right from high school. I started writing down things from all the years that I've been working and everything that I did because that's what the requirement entailed. And that was the African Academy of Sciences affiliates application. And I think as I was writing it, I was sharing it with some friends and the friends, one friend commented, when are you going to get done with this thing? It's too long. It seems, I said, I don't know, but I'm going to make all the effort to get into this program by writing everything that I need to write. Last minute is not very good because one thing is people say, on the last day, things will go wrong. Your internet will not work, the website will crash. So try to have a target to submit your applications one day before. So when you're working with one day before, you move backwards and it's not the day that you need recommendation letters and move backwards when you need your essays and all those things in advance. Some people don't want to be asked for recommendations one day in advance. And a recommendation for a fellowship is a very detailed recommendation. One of my mentors showed me how to write one. I've been able to write for 2 of my colleagues. One was successful, one wasn't. But it was a very long process of learning that. The same way, every application the same way, whether it is UN or it's a Kenyan application. Go download the advert, look through, sit, think about it, even if it take you 2 or 3 days, how you meet each requirement, customize your CV, customize your application, save it, save the advert, send it, and go and apply on the next one and the next one. At some point, somebody will respond. Somebody will respond at some point. If you're sure you're meeting the job requirements, and they say we don't have to meet 100%. So unfortunately, it's hard work, a lot of effort, and several disappointments. At some point, a friend of mine told me, I didn't get that fellowship. Then the person said, next, like, that's gone. I'm okay with it. I've accepted, it's gone. I need to put an effort to apply for the next one. Over to you, Aurelia.
Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Barbara. I think the message for today is resilience. Keep fighting, keep trying until you get it. Don't get tired. Plan it out, and you'll be successful. You can hear from 25 successful conferences. We don't know how many more conferences Daktari had tried. So we've come to the end of the session. It's been such an awesome pleasure to have you on board. Do you have any final words, Daktari? Then we close now.
Sorry. Thank you so much for sparing your time to come today to this session. It's something I've been thinking about for a very long time, and I was happy that Ada offered the opportunity for me to share this. I hope it was useful. I hope you could use the information to be able to move to some of your applications. And all the best. Thank you.
So thank you everyone for coming. We wish you well. I have all your emails, those who someone has an email. I've also sent my own email. Just in case I miss out your email, we'll send it just now. If we'll send the presentation today. So if you don't get it from me, please take my email. It's there, aurelia.adaafricaltd.org, so that you can send me a reminder. And I think Dr. Barbara will be with us next month again for another interesting topic. So watch out for this space, and I wish you a chance. Dr. Barbara, do you want to share your email with the group or not?
My email is on LinkedIn. If you go to my profile, I think it's there.
Yes.
It's drburman@gmail.com, all small letters. Continuous, no space. So you can find me on LinkedIn. You can find my email there, and you can contact me.
Yes, so just go on LinkedIn, Barbara Burman, and you'll find her email there. Yes. So thank you and have a lovely evening.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Bye. Davis, don't end. I have